Hola, estudiantes. Today we're going to review and expand on the use of prepositions with verbs. So you can call this lesson Prepositions with Verbs. And then when you come to class, we'll practice using them to describe people, places, things, and events in the workplace. So in English, you can use prepositional phrases with verbs to add or complete the meaning of the sentence. For example, in my letter, I wrote about my academic experience. About is the preposition in English. And honestly, in English, there are tons and tons of prepositions. Here's just an example of 100 of them. In Spanish, we're going to look at a lot fewer than that. In Spanish, you may not necessarily use the corresponding preposition in English. And so the point of today's video is that you must learn each expression along with its preposition. So the verbs I'm going to give you today have prepositions that you have to memorize as like part of the verb phrase. But good news, not doing 100, just 4. So make yourself a little preposition chart. We're going to look at verbs that are followed with the prepositions a, en, con, y, de. So let's start with verbs that use an a after them. Acostumbrarse a, to get used to. Por ejemplo, yo ya me acostumbré a trabajar aquí. I've already gotten used to working here. Atreverse a, to dare to. No me atreví a pedirle un aumento al jefe. I didn't dare ask the boss for a raise. Ayudar a, to help or to help to. Ella me va a ayudar a terminar el trabajo. She's going to help me to finish the work. And by the way, that can be an a with an infinitive verb after it, like ayudar a terminar. You can also use a personal a if the direct object of the verb is a person. Por ejemplo, voy a ayudar a la jefa a archivar los documentos. So I'm going to help the boss file the documents. So you use an a and an infinitive verb, or you can use the personal a after ayudar and a person. And one more that goes in our a chart, negarse a, to refuse to. Juan Carlos se negó a trabajar después de las 6. Juan Carlos refused to work after 6. Our next preposition that go with some verbs is en. Confiar en, to trust or to trust in. Nosotros confiamos en ti. We trust you or we trust in you. So the en is not optional. Consistir en, to consist of. So again, here's another example where it's a different preposition in English than it is in Spanish. En qué consiste este trabajo? What does this job consist of? And the answer would also use en. Consiste en contar los números or whatever. Fijarse en, to notice. ¿Te fijaste en este correo electrónico? Did you notice this email? Y pensar en, to think about. Again, English preposition's about, Spanish preposition is en. ¿Estabas pensando en tus compañeros de clase? Were you thinking about your classmates? So what I'm trying to emphasize with this lesson is just because it uses a certain preposition in English, or sometimes in English, it doesn't even use a preposition. In Spanish, the ones I'm giving you today do use prepositions after these verbs. So this is one of those lessons where you just have to buckle down and memorize this series of like, okay, this verb goes with this preposition, verb goes with that preposition. It just is what it is. All right, our third out of the 4 is con. Bastar con, to be enough, or to be enough to. Para ese puesto basta con una carta de presentación. For that job, a letter of introduction is enough. Basta con. Casarse con, to marry. Reinaldo se jubiló después de casarse con Isabel. Reinaldo retired after marrying Isabel. So for this particular verb, you'll see the other spouse's name after the con, or like an L or an ella. Contar con, to count on. Nunca podía contar con él. I could never count on him. So again, in English, on, in Español, con. Encontrarse con, to meet up with. Puedes encontrarte con nosotras en el restaurante. You can meet up with us at the restaurant. That one's pretty similar to English, thankfully. Y finalmente, soñar con. And a lot of people want to use sobre here, but that is not the correct preposition in Spanish that goes with soñar. Soñar con is to dream of or to dream about. María Elena soñaba con trabajar por cuenta propia. María Elena dreamed of being self-employed. And our last list are the verbs that go with de. Acabar de plus an infinitive verb. That means to have just done whatever infinitive verb you want to use. Por ejemplo, acabo de archivar todos los documentos. I have just filed all the documents. Acordarse de, to remember to or about. ¿Te acordaste de llamar a Mónica? Did you remember about calling Monica? Did you remember to call Monica? Alegrarse de, to be glad to or to be glad about. Ella se alegró de ofrecerme el puesto. She was glad to offer me the job. This one you've known for a long time, I hope. Darse cuenta de, to realize. No se dieron cuenta del problema que tenían. They didn't realize the problem that they had. Encargarse de, to take charge of or to take care of. Tú te encargaste de llamar a los empleados. Did you take care of calling the employees? Enterarse de, to find out about. Again, de en español, about en inglés. Cuando nos enteramos de la vacante, avisamos a Jorge. When we found out about the opening, we let Jorge know. Terminar de, to finish. And this one you usually see with an infinitive verb afterwards. Siempre descanso después de terminar de trabajar. So there's your infinitive verb after, to finish doing whatever verb. I always rest after I finish working. Trabajar. Y finalmente, tratar de, to try to. This is another one that you'll see, to try to what? To try to do whatever verb. Voy a tratar de, in this case, no trabajar, tiempo extra. I'm going to try to not work overtime. Okay, so that is your list of verbs and the prepositions that go with those verbs. Let's start memorizing them. Vámonos.